Let's talk a little bit more about Burmese pythons versus reticulated pythons. Seems like at least I'm providing some information that people are interested in. Here's a nice big albino Burm. And I gotta admit, oh, there you go. Here it pokes up. So wonderful. I mean, I just love Burmese pythons. And they're wonderful in so many different ways. But we are comparing right now Burmese pythons versus reticulated pythons. And basically, pretty much in defense of reticulated pythons, because a lot of people think that Burmese pythons make a more tractable pet. And that's because a lot of times what they've heard, they're recycling information about crazy stories about reticulated pythons. I indeed have met some Burmese pythons that were literally insane. Like I bet some dwarf Burms that I was just like, I don't think I can cope with this animal. The animals were so reactive, I could not make sense of the animals. And that can also happen with a reticulated python. But it absolutely can happen with the Burmese python. And at that point, they're both just insane individuals that there's no pleasure in keeping them because they're completely distrustful of people. They cannot seem to think. They just become very reactive, which means biting, peeing, going insane, smashing the glass, all these different things, which I find keeping any snake like that a non-enjoyable experience. And that animal just basically is not suited for captivity. And I like to avoid animals like that. But there are rare cases where we do encounter animals like that. One thing, when I was watching some of the comments for some of the people, there was a really good comment that, when I'm doing these videos, I'm just yapping away, la 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 la, just talking about whatever is just I can think of. And one point that I think is very valid is when it comes down to breeding season. So basically, when we're keeping these animals and we start going through certain things to manipulate breeding, we're playing with day cycles, temperatures, and all the different stuff like that. And what they're doing is, we're trying to, with males, what we're trying to do is, an immature male can still make sperm. So it's actually creating, something that we need for breeding, make sperm, but it doesn't have the testosterone, which is the drive that causes that animal to breed. So when we cool these animals down, what we're doing is we're trying to spike that testosterone. And that testosterone is literally the engine or the fuel that causes the animal to go into reproductive mode and actually start courting a female. Well, when we do that in snakes, sometimes reticulated pythons, it can cause males to become a little bit aggressive or aggro. And what they are is they're lined up to combat other males. They're going to basically defend their territory. They're going to defend any and all females, because they want to lay claim to any females for reproductive efforts. And that's what nature intends you to do. Survival of the fittest, only the strong reproduce, blah, blah, blah. So the most aggro, outgoing male could breed the most and maybe, sire more clutches than a very cryptic, demure, shy animal. So in captivity, we're keeping these retics. And once the male hits this reproductive size and starts feeling it wants to breed, you'll start noticing these animals start arching their backs. I've shown this in some of the other snakes. Snarfles will do it all the time. But they're going to start arching their backs, and they're basically going through all this, they want to breed. And basically, that's their testosterone kind of getting them so, they smell females, they want to breed, and they would fight other males. And we don't want to be regarded as another male, because we don't want to deal with any of that kind of stuff. If I go sideways, and let's say we talk about iguanas. So people keep these pet iguanas, have a wonderful pet iguana, let's say it's a male, and they've raised it to a certain size, and then all of a sudden, they notice a certain time of year, often when it starts cooling down, the animal starts not behaving like normal, and it's getting a little aggro, maybe tries to bite, whip its tail, get in its tippy toes, wiggles its tail around, and acts kind of insane. This is testosterone in action. With iguanas, male iguanas and testosterone, that can be a very scary time as far as a keeper goes when you interact with that animal. And if you actually don't know the telltale signs, you could end up getting, bit by your favorite pet lizard. And that's literally, the lizard is basically becoming a victim to its adolescence or teen-like hormones. And the animal just isn't making any sense. So we start having an animal that moves into basically not thinking, but it just starts becoming incredibly reactive. And sometimes that type behavior is very irrational. And that is not, that allows us to have the interaction with these animals. The point is, we want to learn to be able to trust these animals, and we want them to think. So when I'm looking at this animal and she's just a literal doll, and she's enjoying me, I'm not causing her any stress. And this is what it's all about. This is basically, I understand this animal and I can predict its behavior because I produce this animal, but I also know this animal very, very well. So I literally have a relationship with this animal just like you'd have with a cat or a dog. And believe it or not, it's a snake, because this is a snake that thinks. And guess what, everybody? Your snakes also know who you are. Once you've had an animal like this for a while, this animal knows exactly who I am. It can discern between myself, one of my employees. If somebody handles it poorly, this animal might decide it does not like that person or fears that person. This animal is literally laid down in my hand, because we can't say love. I'd like to say love because I certainly love her, but this animal is so trusting and just so engaged with me that she feels so confident, and it's all good things. But back to this, so we have males with testosterone. So if you're interacting with an animal and it's breeding time, and he smells another male on you, or he smells a female or anything like that, sometimes we can jump out of character, out of form of that animal, and the animal behaves a little differently or very differently. And that's because of testosterone. And that isn't the animal just suddenly woke up one day and decided it dislikes you. It woke up one day and decided that it cannot cope with this, the hormones raging through its body. And now it has to combat logical thought that normally you've engaged with this animal with. Suddenly it has to deal with the hormones that cause it to want to breed, make it want to fight with other males, make it want to just go mad through the forest and the water looking for females, because this is all of what nature has designed this animal. That's amazing. Look at her. She is completely laid down in my hand. So we are talking about testosterone. And you need to understand. So if you see that animal arching its back and doing any of that kind of stuff, this is classic retic. There are other pythons and certainly boas that will act in different variations of this, but reticulated pythons are very obvious, at least in my eyes, when they start getting a little hormonal, arching themselves and stuff like that. When you do see that with a reticulated python, just pause for a second, take it all in, understand what it's doing, and understand appropriate behavior. This is maybe not the best time to take this animal out and throw them on your kid's shoulders or anything like that. So Burmese pythons are less inclined to do this. They don't quite have the raging, I want to go fight with other male kind of thing that retics do. So there is a difference. And this right here is a time that you should be sensitive as a reticulated python keeper, and you need to understand, the species you're working with. So I thought that was a really good point. And look at her. She's so cute. I love you. All right. So hopefully that's noteworthy enough where we see a difference. But that is literally. But we cannot mistake that for that animal being mean or aggressive. We're just basically dealing with reality. Hormones. Same thing happens with iguanas. And everybody's supposed to love iguanas. When in fact, iguanas are wonderful. But you have to be a little bit aware. And reticulated pythons, you have to be a little bit aware. We are keeping predators. We're engaging in activities that are not natural. But we have been able to have these magical relationships with these animals. Hi, baby. All right, look at you. Isn't this wonderful? Big beauty. Big Burmese python, as always. Amazing, I'm so cute. Hi. Let's see if I can get you to focus. That's a lot of weight on your lung. So this animal's putting all her weight right where her lung is, so it makes it a little bit harder to breathe. But look at that. Wonderful albino Burmese python. I mean, you really can't really knock it, and I love this snake. So great stuff. All right, I might even have another video in on the Burmese retic python debate. So this should be video number 5. All right, if you have any more questions and aspects and points, we might want to talk a few things. So we'll talk about the health, Burmese pythons versus reticulated pythons. That's certainly a relevant target for me to discuss. All right, say goodbye.